Well, hello and welcome to week 10. We are doing America West here. We have teams time trial for the ZRL WTRL League. I'm Kate Bates, joining you from Australia, and I am joined by the one and only, the legend that is Dave Towle. Dave, how are you going?
Doing awesome, Kate. Thanks so much. It's always awesome to have you kick in to end our day of racing. It's going to be a big one out here. I'm really stoked. This course, as you saw earlier, TikTok is perfect for team time trialing. Our teams are going to get the most out of themselves out here today.
Well, we've still got a few pretty tight races at the top of the table. I think on the line tonight is not only a chance to head to the playoffs, to step up into the Premier League, but also bragging rights for who won the league overall. Let's take a quick look at the league standings so far before we jump down and see how the riders are doing out on course. Fairly tight race between Revo Scores and ATP Racing Swarm there. Revo have got a 6-point advantage. It's then another nearly 20 points back to the BRT Doom Kittens, Cryogen Mount Evans in fourth. So a pretty solid battle there for the podium overall in this league. In fifth, we've got Waddy Inc. WB, Revo Musketeers taking place number 6, Penvelo. They are in seventh, AHDRL Butter Boom. They are in eighth, and Instafund La Prima. They are on 31 points in ninth. You're laughing at the Butter Boom, aren't you, Dave? It gets you every week.
I love your energy, kid. All right. Vanessa Wahoo, Gold Rush on top, 170 points. It's going to be just like in the women. You can see that this is where the battle's going to be here. Second, third, fourth. This Dirty Rascals Riot on 161 points. On the Rivet, Hayes with 155. Oh my God, they killed Kenny, sitting in fourth, 142. In fifth is Penvelo A. Costa Rica in sixth. Audi A in seventh. Cryogen Pirasur in eighth, Alto Velo Racing Team in ninth, and then it's Tag Cycling Racing Team in 10th. That is the A's.
And over in the Division B, we've got the Dirty Rascals Stampede. The Dirty Rascals are pretty consistent across all the leagues here. They are leading on 163 points. Very tight race for second here. KRT Big Timbers on 154 points, as are the Dirty Rascals Alibas. ATP Racing Krypton in fourth. On the Rivet, Zeal Breakers in fifth. TFC Pickle Juice, they are in sixth. I might leave some pickle juice out for Santa based on how good you tell me it is. In seventh, we've got Musette La Crocodile. In eighth, the Zwiffer Dusters. In ninth, Penvelo B1. And in 10th, Watty Inc. B1.
We're going to revisit that pickle juice question. I'm going to jump right in with the C's for the men's in America's West. As Cryogen Grand Colombier, it's got a 10-point advantage as Dirty Rascals Ambush sitting in second, Z Sun Controllable in third, Panda Candy Racing. How is that, Kate? In fourth for 145 points.
No eating the Panda Candy, Dave. No eating the Panda Candy.
Especially this time of year. All right, Dirty Rascals Grind in sixth, Dirty Rascals Affogato in seventh, Zwift Crushing Daddies in eighth, Deadpool's X-Force in ninth, and then Dirty Rascals Padres rounding out our top 10. That's the men's C's. So, Kate, I feel a really good energy and spirit today as we're into the 10th of 10 for our Zwift Racing League. It's been an awesome run. It has been fantastic being your colleague. I have learned a lot from you out here over the last 9 weeks. I think we both together have learned a lot about team time trialing in this esports platform. We've come a long way, as our teams have as well. And so now we get to have the real throwdown. I feel like we're kind of at that point where that learning curve, it's flattening out a little bit. We've learned 90%, maybe the easiest 90%. Now the devil's in the details, but a lot of this comes down to your team being synced up on a day like today. You can't have one rider here and another down here. Everybody needs to be on that same level to have a solid ride. That's one of the things I've really learned is how you'd want to distribute the power amongst the team. 2 strong riders and 2 weak riders is not equal to 4 medium riders. The 4 medium riders will win every time.
No, you're spot on. And it has been, I think, really encouraging to watch how the teams have developed across all the different leagues week in and week out. And I think it's fair to say the first team time trial we commentated was a little bit messy, and we had a few riders all over the places. There wasn't a lot of etiquette when the teams were overtaking each other. But I think we're at the point now where it's actually really impressive to watch. So some of the teams will naturally have a bit more horsepower. But all in all, I think the teams have shown a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication. And it's been pretty entertaining. We've got some fans already on YouTube, and they are cheering for the Cryogen team tonight. So for anybody watching, give us a shout out. Off air, Dave and I were talking about Santa and whether in Australia actually kangaroos lead Santa through our skies. So, we're covering the hard business here on the WTRL racing. Dave, we'll head down to the racing and take a look at what's happening out on course when we can. In the women, it's the Revo Scores who are on the top of the table. Unless they have a bit of an average performance today, we expect it to stay that way ahead of ATP racing. Both of the teams have crossed that 170-point threshold to go into the playoffs, which happen this weekend. And then, of course, from there, we'll have some teams stepping up into Premier League. So I think today, for all of the teams, is just about having one last opportunity to leave it all out on course and finish off what's been such a good season with a bit of commitment.
Yeah, Kate, the teams that love this discipline of team time trialing, and let me quickly set the ground rules here. Riders, 6 per team is the maximum and the ideal number to start with. The 4th rider across the line is where your time will come from. We're out here racing on a course called TikTok. The laps are about 18K each, so 2 laps today will make up 36 kilometers of racing. But going back to what you were saying, this discipline of team time trialing, the teams that are good at it, they really enjoy doing this, Kate. And this is the 5th time. We're wrapping up our regular season, but as you alluded to, the playoffs, if you will, the extra racing happening this weekend is going to be really interesting. And that's the promotion and demotion and the in-game kit that we've been talking about, the rewards, the cherry on top of the cake for these teams, because the real reward was, I don't know if you were, we talked about it earlier in the day, Kate, but over 10,000 and well over 10,000 racers have taken a start at a minimum in this league, this inaugural season. A tremendous success, and already the numbers are looking better than that. It's not hard to believe, actually. A lot of people saw this and decided they wanted to get involved in the racing as well. But my first question for you, we're going to have a series of Christmas questions because we are super curious up here. It's not myself alone. It's also
Excellent. All right.
is very curious.
All right.
Obviously, Santa doesn't want pickle juice. He doesn't want, that's not in America. We typically, you would hear maybe the racier families might leave out a little snifter of brandy along with eggnog, something like that. But typically here, it's milk and cookies, just regular chocolate chip cookies and some milk is what we leave for Santa.
Yes.
What would you leave out? He needed some energy in Australia.
Yeah, we do. We do the cookies for Santa. We do the carrots for the reindeer. And if you're racy, we don't do eggnog in Australia. In fact, I don't ever know what that is. That's something else I'll have to Google, along with pickle juice. We would leave whiskey out, I think, if you're racy. Otherwise, he'd probably get some milk. I guess it depends on the household, doesn't it, Dave? But too many whiskeys for Santa. Does. That might be a little bit of a rough trip around the country.
Yeah, I wonder, so Santa must start, a lot of questions, and one of them coming in was, does Santa swap out the reindeer for platypus or a different animal there? I don't think platypus fly, but maybe kangaroo? What do you guys do?
No, look, platypus are waterborne animals, and wombats can be fast, but they can also be very grumpy. Have you ever heard that saying, Dave, a grumpy wombat? Yeah, look, you don't ever want to be called a grumpy wombat. That's kind of our version of saying you're not a particularly nice person. So no wombats. Look, we stick to the kangaroos. No, I mean, for anybody who wants to Google 6 white boomers, I won't give you a rendition because I think that would probably go against community standards to have me singing. But they Google 6 white boomers and you can find kind of the Aussie Christmas song and how we do it. And there's even a dance that goes along with it, which you can probably imagine, Dave.
Nathan informing me that that would be a violation of our terms of service if either you or myself sang. So that was made pretty clear to me off air there. So, all right, this is going to be Penn Bellow. So this team, I just love this part of the country. I'm sure when you were here, you liked it too, Kate. Northern California, the Bay Area. That's where Penn Velo races out of. And we're getting a good look at their team, who they've come on, I would say, another team that has really picked up on the Zwift Racing League. And they look really good right now, carrying over 41 kilometers per hour is their speed on this flat sector. Again, 36 kilometers of racing. It's a good sign, though, when you see the whole team together here, just motoring along at this point.
It is. Lowe has been a real standout in the scratch racing, especially on the climbs. Last week, she did all of the attacking on the climbs and really split it all to pieces when they were in Yorkshire. It is a little bit different in a team's time trial, though, because she needs to make sure she tempers her effort and doesn't bomb through, and by that I mean accelerate through too quickly when she comes to the front. But Penn Velo have been pretty solid all around, and we've heard some really great community feedback about them, Dave, about them being just a really good culture within the team. And I think, bearing in mind that this is season 1 of this racing series, it is so exciting to think about the development that will happen amongst these teams in the series to come. How many riders who aren't even on a bike yet, let alone in Zwift, may end up racing this league? Because a lot of these teams are so community-based that they're literally in bike shops telling people to jump on board. So I think it could be a really big area of development.
I couldn't agree more, Kate. The COVID has been obviously so rough in so many ways on people in 2020, but one of the bizarre upsides is the number of athletes that didn't know the talent that they had for racing a bike. Well, they have found that over the last few months out here on this platform we love so much called Zwift. And that is certainly an upside, empowering and in particular women, I would say. Candice Lowe is the rider that we're talking about here, who is one of the very strong cornerstones, I'd say, of the Penn Velo team. Jessica Karste, Laura Mace, Levinson, Stephanie Burns, Yvonne Walbrol making up the team. That's going to be Candice taking her pole right now. The trick, name of the game, Kate, as we identified early, stronger riders. You don't go faster when you hit the front. You just go longer. So deeper, longer poles, keeping the average speed as fast as you can for everybody. You don't want to throw a hand grenade in the middle of the team, just 8K in, by all of a sudden ramping it up to so completely understanding that Candice, if she wanted to, Kate, she could bring the speed, slam it, right, and take it up to 45K per hour. But guess what happens behind her? It's a dog's breakfast, right? There's riders all over the shop, and you can't have that. That's not how you do this. Smooth, working together, the time taken off the fourth rider, but the longer you can keep 6 together, the more you can rotate riders off. So Candice will take longer pulls, but other riders all should hope to participate in the pacemaking for the team as they go by the giant Brontosaurus.
A dog's breakfast. That's a good Aussie saying too. We love that one.
I hijacked
you're spot on. And yeah, good. Excellent. You can steal that one. We've got a few other dog sayings too. I'll try and drop them in at some point today. It's a thing about team time trialing that beforehand, I think, it really pays to have a very well communicated strategy. So if we take a look here, Revo and Waddy Inc., we've got a bit of an overtake happening here by Waddy Inc. Overtaking the Revo Musketeers. We've got a bit of chat happening on the right. Very polite. Thank you. I love that. I love that the women in all of the leagues that I've seen have been exceptionally polite with each other. We saw last night in APAC, Dave, it was pretty funny. Almost a little bit cranky, but then back to very polite, like move over, get out of my way. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Like it was kind of cool. You could see the competitiveness coming out, but also being polite as well.
It's funny, the one moment where I identified sort of a little bit of spirited texting going back and forth was our friend V Win, a Vietnamese rider who races out of Seattle. She's one of the Wonder Women from the WTRL. I just love her style. Well, she had texted back off during one of the races, right? But this is a classic example of text. You have to have context. So we both,
Yeah.
Nathan and myself, laughed about that. We're like, well, there's V, because they were just passing another team, and it can get, when they start to mesh together, it can get a little awkward out there. You're right, though. The teams have done an incredible job. One of the things I'm most proud of this year is how the teams have learned to pass and be passed, to do it with class and grace, and we've all come out better people for that. But so what made me laugh was,
it's like any sport, isn't it, Dave, when it develops, that in the first series or two, you just see this almost exponential curve of improvement from a skill perspective. Yes. And we've kind of been pretty lucky to come in on the ground level for that, because week on week, they've been turning into teams that look like, maybe their speed's not, but technically that look like they could be in the Premier League. That's pretty cool. I think this is what we can expect from the Community League to come, just more and more commitment and professionalism, I guess.
Well, wow, really great point, Kate, because when you look at it, if someone told me this was the Premier League, I would say yes, and I love it, because there's no way that you would know. Just the way that look at the formation here. This is a team that knows how to team time trial. Talking about Wadi Inc., the Flash edition right now. But this basically holds true for every team out here. They've learned how to do this. If you haven't been racing in this first season, you're going to be playing some real catch up when season 2 gets going. Because the teams that now have done this, so we're into week number 87. And by the way, Kate, I don't know if you have heard, but we're raising money for the World Bicycle Relief. The WTRL that's World Tactical Racing League. I always have trouble with those two acronyms right next to each other. But WBR, which is World Bicycle Relief, you can see them at worldbicyclerelief.org. Well, it is astounding. No, it's not astounding. It's exactly what I expected from the WTRL community. As Martin and Steven decided to make a benefit race this week, week 87. They set a target goal, Kate, of $50,000 which that's pretty close to 50,000 Australian, isn't it? You guys are right there, I think, with us. So
yeah. In fact, it's more. It's like, right? That's a really impressive amount in Australian dollars.
So that amount, I heard, is approaching $40,000 raised, and it's starting to ramp up. Some of the teams like Sisu, who raced earlier in America's East, that team alone has raised almost $6,500, maybe $7,000. Each bike is about $140 each. So, I mean, right there, you're talking about changing and impacting this world in such a positive way. So I'm really stoked.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of buffalo bikes for the riders in Africa for World Bicycle Relief. It's pretty impressive. So this is in the pen.
The pen?
For the men. So the riders have to jump here with enough time before they go, but they do have to be careful not to head out before their go time. So this is go, and we can see just one team leaving. The rest of the riders, they remain in. And so this is the opportunity. This is really cool to be able to watch this live.
Yeah.
And we've got the Twitch screen up there as these guys head out onto course. Last week we saw Brian Kellison doing an awesome job kind of corralling his crew. He's got the full mic and headphones set up there so he can talk to his teammates.
Yeah, this guy is very similar to our colleague Anna Russell, right? You just get a feeling he is not messing around. Every bit of technology. He doesn't have a headband, but that's Anna's signature thing.
Maybe we can get him one for Christmas. He can be our male Jane Fonda. I mean, is there a male Jane Fonda, or can we just call him the male Jane Fonda?
Interesting. I don't know who you would associate with that. That someone will have to tell us on Twitter here. But so Nathan, who every single Zwift Community Live broadcast, Nathan has his hands on in one way or another, and so I love the fact that we have throughout today have shown multiple times we've gone to that pen to show the process of how it's all, where you're waiting. We learned some tricks of the trade for if you want to keep warming up, how you can do that without false starting, because that's sort of the danger, is that if you're pedaling your bike, you have to be you have to make sure you're disconnected, or else all of a sudden you'll just go rolling off of the start line and disrupt that procedure. So we have a chance now to take a look. We're going to go split screen right now. Both teams, though, moving right at 49.50 per hour. That's sort of the target speed out here. We talked about making schedules. I'm not sure. Every team has different ways of doing it, but most of them come in with a pretty solid outline, I'd say, Kate, for a team time trial. It's not scripted entirely, but there's a pretty decent element of having a role. We learned earlier that what a lot of the teams have been doing is using socks, the color of the socks, to distinguish the riders, to know you follow green or you follow blue. It makes it much easier than trying to figure out where Rodney is right now.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because we saw in APAC some interesting communication strategies that Anna and I sort of threw out there and said, why are they doing this? And the feedback we got from some of the fans was that a lot of the riders speak different languages, and so it wasn't just as simple as communicating on Discord. They had to be a little bit more creative in the way that they got those messages across. And so whether it's a number at the beginning of their profile name, whether it's different sock colors, I think the biggest element is communication. So you do need to go out with a pretty strong plan and a pretty strong idea of what to expect. If for no other reason, then I've got to say, these are the most miserable races you can do. I mean, they are tough. They are physically tough. They are mentally really tough. And if you don't have an expectation of what your job is and how you fit in, I think that it can just be a complete schmozzle. So that's kind of number one. But then the second thing is, who's playing team manager? Is it one of the riders, an external party? Anna Rogers, we know, played team manager for her team, Sarah, the Pros Closet, in the earlier league. Instead of riding, she sat out and gave instructions. And she was able to give very clear and concise instructions that weren't fluffy, couldn't be misconstrued in any way, and almost allowed the riders to just pedal and not have to think too much about it. And I think sometimes that can be a really beneficial thing. I mean, it's almost like all the blood is flowing elsewhere but your brain. You don't want to have to think too much while you're out there. So if you have a good team manager in your ear, I think it can make things a lot easier.
Perfect example with Anna Russell. And I would have to say that it's going to be a rare situation where I would advise that a racer in the race also direct at the same time, for all of the reasons that you said, Kate. Points really well made. And finding a good director, they also will be able to access a little bit more information, work with more data. And it's at this point now, it's become specialized enough that you're definitely going to be looking for a director that's not actually racing at the moment. It's really fantastic, the level that these teams are taking it to. Getting our first splits coming in now, you can see it's only 11 seconds from scores to the swarm. Revo scores in with the 14:26. We've got 3 different checkpoints for you today out on course here. TikTok 2 times for 36K. So Revo scores a 14:26, a 14:37. It's going to be the time for ATP Racing Storm. It's BRT Doom Kittens stopping. Well, the clock said 14:53 as they came through. 15:17 for Wadi Inc. WB Crouch and Mount Evans 4 seconds behind them with the 15:21. Then you had Penn Bello, then Revo Musketeers. So there we go. That's our first real check. Now Revo Scores doing what Revo Scores does so well, leading at checkpoint 1.
This is what we expected, and as the checkpoints come out, so we've got a time check at 10 kilometres, 16 and 26. The overall distance today is 36K, and as you say, Dave, they do 2, which can also be quite beneficial for the team to get the feel the first lap, and then the second lap is almost a case of just go and leave everything out there. it would be a bit of a bummer if any of the teams lost any riders on that first lap, but I think we can expect to see a lot of the teams down to just 4 riders by that finishing lap. Of course, they can start with up to 6, but a minimum of 4, and the time is taken off the 4th rider. But the longer you can keep some fresh horses, if you will, and have 5 or 6 who can swap even turns, that's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, Kate, you're 100% right in that you would think if you look at the course profile that you'd see a lot of teams finishing with 5 or on average, let's say 5.2 to 5.4 racers, but it's way under that. And that is because of the teams going out so aggressively. I think they set lofty goals out here, and some riders end up just, the burn rate is just too high when they're trying to average over 45 kilometers per hour. And our women's teams some of them are getting pretty close to that. So that 11-second gap there between the racing swarm and scores, it's going to be interesting. If it's still that close at the next checkpoint, we have got what's going to be a nail-biter of a race, as that'll be right at the midpoint. So basically, you've completed 1 lap at that point. 3% grade, the steepest part of the course, really, right here. And you can see that's where, but Kate, when you're struggling, it's that punching it up to 3% where you really, really scrape the bottom of the barrel at that point. And now this is where that little gap is so painful, just getting no draft at all right now. So you're working as hard as the riders on the front. Clearly, they're feeling better than you are right now. They're up in the front part of the team. We talk about not wanting to wait, but right at the midpoint, I think you do. It's even tougher now. You hit the gravel. It feels like you're on wet carpet.
Well, even the smallest of uphill, 2% in real life might not seem like too much, but when little gaps open up and you start to lose that draft effect, it is tough. And also the view you have, you're not able necessarily to see the riders wheel ahead of you when that gap does open up. But this is kind of decision point for them. They're not quite at the halfway mark. Will they leave a rider behind, Hose, who is just a few seconds dropping off the back now, or will they keep going without her? They have to make this decision right away because once Hose gets more than a couple of seconds back, it is all over Red Rover for her, and they'll have to get to the end with 4.
This is where you really want a director so that these riders, Kate, aren't having to make that decision. You want to take that out of their palette that they're working with. Just someone needs to tell you either continue on or wait, but you don't want to have that back and forth or second guessing. It's such a tough sport as it is. The last thing you want to do is to think.
Yeah, it's the riders, I think, in BRT, Ange McRae especially, she's done a number of the leagues. She's also ridden in APAC. She has just really become kind of one of the strategic heads in the team, I think, and a real point of guidance. But a few gaps are opening up here. I'm noticing Ange is sitting on the back there, and that would not be lack of legs. But Hose is back now, so I'm wondering if McRae kind of dropped back a bit to give her a little bit of that encouragement. Come on, you can do this. Let's get back out there and together. The 5 of them are back together. This will make it a bit easier for everybody, but Hose will need to take a bit of recovery here. So she's best doing that sitting mid-pack to make sure she's getting the most out of that draft effect and not necessarily pulling any turns just yet. Otherwise, we might just see the same thing happen again.
They talk about team building, at least in the United States, Kate. That's a fairly common thing, just trying to get people together outside of the office and have them do something that just sort of brings the best out in people. There's no doubt that team building happens out here. And a rider like Ange McRae is great for morale. Every team needs a rider like Ange, that's for sure. We're in now with ATP. As this
racing. So here's an interesting one. We just kind of touched on it before, Dave, is they've got their position numbers in front of their name. So 1, Grinnell Stallcamp is 3, who we're watching at the moment, and Connolly in fourth, Joy Connolly, Barbara Fazzoli in second. I think it's almost like a bit of a rough and ready way to remind you who to follow. 2 follows 1, 3 follows 2. Take the guesswork out of it.
And identify, right? Even if that changes in numerical order, at least I'm supposed to be behind 4 now, so it's pretty clear. I absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And these riders, Kat Salthouse, we talked so much about her last week, Dave, about how just consistent she's been. And she's the kind of rider that early on we almost put her a little bit in the sprinter box and just said she's a really powerful rider. That's what she's great at. But actually, she's proven to be a bit of an all-rounder, and she's been consistently strong on all of the courses, including some pretty challenging ones around New York and the Everything Bagel, and last week in Yorkshire as well. So Salthouse, I think, is a name to watch in the future. They will go through to the playoffs, and let's see what happens, though. They do have another team heading into the playoffs as well. And Dave, my understanding is that a club can't have more than one team in the Premier League, so only one of the ATP teams, whether it's the Swarm or the Venom, will be able to go through from that. But it feels to me like they've got a pretty good wheelhouse of options.
Yeah, well, an embarrassment of riches for ATP, that's for sure. Another rider, just looking at Alicia Stats, has been one that has really stood out from this group as well. This is the small but mighty division, I would say, when you talk about America's West for the women. I think when push comes to shove, when we get them in the mix with the other divisions, I like our chances out of America's West, actually. There's some very strong women. As you were mentioning Kat Salthouse earlier, that's a really good example there. So, a lot to look forward to for the second half of the race now, because we've got some sorting out to do amongst some really competitive races on this TikTok course. Hard to believe we're down to week 10 of the ZRL. We're going to jump in with the B men right now. Have to try to figure out really quickly here, Kate. Yeah, it looks like a pass is about to be made here.
It looks like Krypton is coming up to... no, I think Krypton is about to be overtaken here by 4Owl. What we want to see... We don't want the riders to get caught in that draft effect. So they need to accelerate right past to make sure that the teams are clearly separated. I mean, a bit of a difference to in real life. The avatars literally weave through the middle of the group, which can be visually a little bit funny.
In real life, that would be so annoying, Kate. In real life, if someone did that, you'd be like, what a maniac. My goodness, but right.
Yeah, it would be chaotic. Well, and a difference here, and this is a request from the commentators, I love seeing the teams in the same kit, because it made it pretty clear to us then which the 4 all riders are, because they're all in the same kit. But the Krypton riders, the ATP crew, they're all in different colours. So come on, guys, get your style guide out and going. And we can see on right of screen a live feed there. It's actually pretty good to see just how tough they're working. Heart rate at 160. That's Jeff Duncan for ATP that we are watching on the screen. And he looks to be slightly uncomfortable, Dave. It's almost like this is a difficult race. Good.
He's doing his job correctly. If he was comfortable, we'd know that he wasn't racing as hard as he could. So, we had a team earlier, Kate. There was a tragic situation a couple of days ago in Las Vegas where it was more than 5 that were hit by a truck. 5 lost their lives in the accident, and that we saw teams racing 4-4-5. 4Al is our friend Al, who had a back in November, I believe it was, had a tragic situation, losing the most important people and pets in his life. And so racing for Al is still something that it's nice to see being remembered out here. So that would explain why, because this is the ATP team. We're going up now to, did you get your ugly Christmas sweater going? Or I guess in Australia, it's a ugly Christmas tank top. I don't know what you do. You don't need a sweater.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, we've got lead here.
except
Actually,
that. Oh, look at this.
that's him. He's fighting. Come on, let's cheer him on now. Trying to close that gap. Kate, he's going to do it. He channeled his inner Kate Bates. Don't get dropped.
That was unreal. He just needs to take a big breath now because that was a mammoth effort to get back on. Slight bummer that we don't have an ugly Christmas sweater on live, but I understand that would be a pretty sweaty setup. But Dave, I've got to tell you that the word tank top is very American. We don't use tank top in Australia. We would call it a singlet. A singlet.
Okay, good.
Yes. So, and I think for the Brits who may be watching, they think that that's underwear. So we don't get around in our undergarments. They are actually, shirts in Australia.
That's the thing we were talking about.
Well, oh, dearie me.
Flip-flop.
Right, so back to the racing, Dave.
Yep. So, yeah, that's a good example, though, of that.
We do thongs.
Yes, Nathan was showing us also today how you can go on to Twitch and find the Zwift channel. And earlier today, there were 50 riders who were twitching their event. And we've been able to jump in with some of those throughout the day. It's been really fun. We're doing a lot of new things with Zwift Community Live, pushing the envelope, as they say. Back in with Penn Velo. So we have all the different categories out there racing, but this is going to be Revo scores on the day, a 22.50 at the midpoint of the race, Kate. You can see that they are back at it here. Revo scores has been hard to beat, and today, I don't know that they're going to give up the top step of the podium here without a fight.
No, I think that they've consistently proven their worth. And they do deserve the spoils that come from kind of the bragging rights, maybe a step up to Prem League as well, but for now the bragging rights of doing so well overall, not only just in the week results, but also on the overall league. Penn Velo here, I've got to say, Dave, I think I keep calling Candice Lowe Cindy. Candice, I apologise for that. They have been corrected, and I appreciate any corrections that do come through. But she is one of the riders that we've seen kind of a bit of a mountain goat out in some of the other races. So today she would be quite comfortable on the flat, maybe not in her element with no climbs, but maybe she can do a bit of a Christmas special up Ven Top, because the rumours are that Santa and his sleigh are flying around on the top of Mont Ventoux game. Dave, are you keen to do a ride up there and see if you can spot him?
Well, probably not, to tell you the truth. I've been sticking more with I'm much more of a flatlander for sure. But we'll see. I'm committing to getting the Tron bike in 2021. So, it's baby steps, that's for sure. Don't want to set any false hopes up out there. So
that's a good goal.
So Candice, though, do want to give a shout out to Candice, as she will be one of the riders that's set a very high standard throughout this 10-race season, and I will definitely remember her. I was mentioning, Alicia Stats would be another, Kat Salthouse, the riders that made their mark out here in this inaugural season. It's been awesome.
And Anna Rogers is another one, Dave, because she's been unreal.
Rogers.
She's team leading for those ladies as well, so she's kind of doing the double job.
She probably should be the top of that list. Barbara Fazoli had a nice win very early in the season. If you look all the way back, Ange McRae, one of the Doom Kittens, she's been outstanding. So if you want to talk about the riders who made their star, certainly those are some of the names that stand out.
They are. Look, we've got some style points happening here. The Cryogen ladies are all in their delightful, ugly Chris Meta jerseys. Bit of a triathlete move here with the old
Does Australian Santa wear a visor, which I was just told? I find that hard to believe, and somewhat disappointed. Is that true?
Look, I think it's long as he doesn't wear thongs on his feet, because I think that would be a bit of a workplace hazard. But he
Yeah,
does need a hat because we've got some very harsh sun down here in Australia. You want to have your sunscreen on, your zinc on your nose, and your visor on your head.
he has one of those hats with the flaps on the back, like Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you know we have
You
a
don't
rule
see
in
those hats
Australia, Dave,
anymore.
in schools that is called it's no hat, no play. So kids at school aren't allowed to play outside
Ah,
in
sun,
breaks unless they have a hat.
skin cancer things, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
the minute
Good.
Santa comes into Australian territory, he has to
No
whack a
hat.
hat on that head, otherwise he's no play.
Good. I'm glad around the globe that we're all getting smarter about that stuff, all kidding aside, Kate. You know what I mean? No hat, no play is a good idea. And putting a hat on, that's not going to crimp anybody's style. So back in, Ange McRae, speaking of Australian, we were talking about how the teams have gotten much, much better at the overtaking and the understanding of this process. I can understand why. If you, even for experienced bike racers, Kate, there are plenty of racers who've done hundreds and hundreds of races who have never done a team time trial before. Until WTRL came along, I'm going to guess that you'll see an in real life uptick once we get back to more racing out there, that this discipline, team time trialing, becomes more popular. It'll be a cause and effect. When a butterfly flaps its wings in Argentina, there's a team time trial outside of Toronto.
Oh, well, then I'm urging on all the Argentinian butterflies out there because this is a great discipline. It's having a bit of a resurgence, and I do think that Zwift is playing a really big role in that. We have had a comment come through over on YouTube about the jerseys. Alan Lewis let us know that their team uses different jerseys because I was removing some style points from them and saying it was making it a bit tougher for us to
criticizing them.
but they actually do that. That was me. Here we go. To make the order easier. So that makes a lot of sense. So that, again, it's like the socks.
Okay.
About for the riders to identify each other and keep on track there.
So for the commentators, we'd appreciate if you just made different color socks, and then you could make it easier for us. But I understand where you're coming from.
Or headgear or something.
Right. So it's okay. I guess basically the whole world doesn't revolve around us, Kate. We have to accept that.
Yeah,
I get it.
Look, I'm finding that out day in, day out, Dave. It's disappointing, isn't it?
Well, that's what a mom is all about. I think you realize that for sure. So, all right, 36K of racing down to about 10K to go out here. TikTok is this course, classic team time trial course. I was chatting with Nathan earlier in the day about, I don't know that you get much better than this. This would be in my top 3. If you're going to rotate the World Championships of team time trialing around 2 different courses, this one would definitely make my short list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty specialized event, and any course that is consistent enough where the technicalities don't get in the way, I think that makes for really good racing. We can see the profile at the bottom there. I would say it's slightly exaggerated in terms of how nasty those climbs actually look, which is, I believe it's called the Col de Saddle Springs, how very Tour de France-like of Portopia. But it isn't too bad. It only goes up to about 3%. For the most part, it is a fairly flat trot out there. It is a really good chance for the teams to learn how to keep a pace, hold a pace. One thing Anna and I spoke about last night was the fact that, regardless of what the team instructions are, it's your turn to swing off the minute you start dropping speed, because ideally you want to drop the other riders off at an increasing pace, slightly increasing rather than decreasing. Well, that's when you have to get out of the way.
No doubt, Kate. One of the things, I mean, whether it's in a team time trial or if you're riding in a breakaway with 3 or 4 other riders, so you'll hear the experienced riders or the captains say, look, when you hit the front, if we're trying to hold 50K per hour, if you start bogging down, get off the front immediately. Don't take us down to 46 and then force us to reaccelerate again. If you do that too many times, you'll get dropped out of the break. They won't tolerate that. I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about, Kate, where if you have a rider that they can sit on, but every time they hit the front, they bog it down, well, they don't get to keep hitting the front doing that because it really pisses off the talented riders in that breakaway.
Well, and in a breakaway, I mean, teams time trials and breakaways aren't too dissimilar in that regard, in the way that they have to all work really well together and roll together. I suppose the one difference is that sometimes strategically it's best to actually sit on the back in a breakaway because that's best for
Good point.
a team tactic.
Right. Well,
but that's not going to work in a team time trial. Yeah.
See, theoretically, in a team time trial, you should say, well, you don't have to worry about getting dropped because they're all your team. But actually, you do have to worry about getting dropped because
you do. Definitely.
You don't get relieved of that. But it's not that they're intentionally wanting to drop you, which might be the difference. But, well, Revo Scores doing what Revo Scores does so well, a 1 minute advantage, Kate, with 10K to go.
So they have just overtaken ATP ladies. Anna Rogers, she's the team leader there. She gave a big thank you for it going so smoothly to the ATP racing squad. There's a lot of respect.
Very Canadian.
Very Canadian, is it?
Yes.
I can't even do a Canadian accent, or I would try to say thank you in a Canadian accent. But I think that's would violate our community rules as well, along with me singing. But the Revo ladies, Alicia Stutz, we've spoken at length and week out about her because she has really improved from the first time we saw her as a bit of a talent. And by the end of this league, she's actually really stepped up to be quite a force. I really would love to see her in the Premier League. I think that she could make a really big impact because something we've seen from a number of the different Revo riders, Jana Gillick is another, and Tracy Moore, of course, is incredibly strong. I mean, each of these riders have pretty good credentials. Yeah. But what we've seen is that they've taken a few risks. And each week it hasn't been exactly the same tactics. They've kind of tried a few different things out and seen what's worked and what hasn't. That kind of accelerates their improvement and their learning. And I think that they could make a real impact in Prem League if they get there.
Yeah, you make a great point. So they've learned a lot about racing. They've, in order to win, you have to risk losing. They haven't been afraid of that. So they have made the most out of this 10 weeks of racing. And absolutely, I mean, I guess you'd call it punching above their weight when they go into if they make their way into the Premier League, but they will more than hold their own. And I agree with you as you list the riders off in that team. But there's a few examples there of exactly what Zwift is all about. The finding someone who maybe didn't realize the monster athlete they had inside of them. They always probably had a pretty good feeling that they, when they would run, they'd be like, wow, I seem to be much faster than anyone else on Strava or that kind of thing. Or when I ride, I don't know, it's hard to believe. They almost maybe don't believe the data. Well, you certainly believe it after you race in the ZRL. This is legit. And, getting a look at another one of our Twitch streams coming in here. I absolutely love that we get to do this. So Grenier
and
is
some
the
more
rider.
ugly Christmas sweaters here going.
Doctor of
He's
Psychology.
working hard, Dave. He's working really hard. 160 heart rate, over 300 power, and really good cadence. Between 90 and 100 is really good kind of time trial cadence, and he's just powering along.
Perfect. But that's some serious form right there. And keeping it composed while making that many watts, impressive job. So they've got, let's say, 13K to go. Just about half an hour in right now. Getting a look at, he's on the oh my God, they killed Kenny team that's sitting fourth here, but only 5 seconds out of third. Finesse Wahoo Gold Rush, who one of the best teams in the league, no doubt about it. On the Rivet Hayes, though, 2026, 3 seconds faster, Kate, than Dirty Rascals Riot. So we got quite a bike race going on right now. Very cool to embed here with riders in their Twitch streams today.
It is. I really encourage for the next season some riders to really kind of up their tech game, because we love being able to bring these feeds in and kind of put a real face to the suffering going out. I think we just saw Santa again. We saw him last night in the APAC League. You find Santa somewhere here in OMG. OMG, it's Santa. He's on the pink tongue bike, I think. That's it. Brian Callison, they've just been past Penvelo. So they got passed by OMG. They killed Kenny. And I think that Callison will have to make sure his riders regroup here and keep the pace high. Isn't it just mind-boggling how fast these teams go, Dave? They've been passed and they're traveling at 47k an hour.
That really says a lot, doesn't it? Absolutely flying out here. I mean, Penvelo, when this one is sorted out, their ride's not bad at all. They're just going up against some teams that are finding another level out here today. We're getting down to the business end. Hard to believe that 10 weeks of racing has all come down to this. Our final time zone. Dave Towle here with Kate Bates. Kate, looking more splits here. Well, these are the splits we were just looking at, that 3-second advantage that on the Rivet Haze. So that's anybody's bike race there. Third place, only 5-second split there. It looks like first and second are kind of in a match race there. And third and fourth, same thing, getting a 34.09, our first time coming in at 26K for Tag Cycling Racing Team. A lot of ings. Too many ings. We're one ing too many there.
A lot of ings. A lot of ings. It's been interesting as well, I think, to watch as the teams have progressed through the mix of riders they've been using. We've come to know a lot of the riders quite well and their capabilities, but some riders have kind of floated a few new riders in toward the end of this season, remembering that especially the teams on the top of the table, which here is Gold Rush, they look like they will easily go through to the next league. And then, of course, the Dirty Rascals Riot with a performance today, most likely also on the Rivet Haze. For the playoff round, they can only use a team of riders that have ridden in the league so far. So I can expect we'll see a few new names on those teams, because they're floating them in order to then be able to use them for the playoffs next week. So there's a little bit of background strategy going on.
I was also thinking about recruiting. Some of these teams are going to have the advantage of riders that have been watching this league, Kate, for a couple of months. They've said, I want to race, who probably have been reaching out. So I'm going to imagine there's some big hitters that haven't raced yet in the ZRL that are going to get their first crack at it for season 2, which will roll out in January. Already excited about that. We haven't even hit the playoffs yet.
Sorry, Dave. Well, I was just going to say, we've always traditionally thought about the development path for juniors and for people new to the sport in a very traditional out-on-the-road sense. But I'm actually getting the sense that Zwift is offering this brand new opportunity and pathway to riders. Starts, for example, she's a mum of 3. She's just fitting this in essentially around all of her other commitments. She's probably not the kind of rider who would travel around the world racing on the road, given that balance. But this gives her an opportunity to race and to progress through the sport. So it's a pretty big carrot in the end.
Well, what a great example. So Seattle, Washington, which, if you don't know the United States, is absolutely, the reputation is it's always raining in Seattle. It's a really an arts city. It's a really cool American major city. So this is the same city that has 3 I mentioned V Win, the Vietnamese rider. She works at Microsoft with Mona Lee Keller. Mona Lee Keller is a mom of 3. Who is, I'm going to say, on Zwift Power ranked as one of the top 5, top 10, maybe top 5 Americans, or actually riders in the world. Also, Laura Matson-Coe, who is a surgeon, a mom of 2, and was just 7th at the World Championships, the World Championships, the biggest one-day race in the history of esports. These are all women coming out of Seattle that wouldn't be able to race if it wasn't for this platform, Kate. Tell me that's not amazing. Or, well, okay, maybe amazing isn't the word. Empowering, cool, and exactly what we need at this time in this world. I really, really feel that.
I agree, and I think we've all of us privately, publicly, everybody's acknowledged that 2020 has been an absolutely rubbish year. But I think that Zwift, in particular, from personal experience and a lot of people I've spoken to, has given people a really big sense of community that they had started to lose by these lockdowns, by not being able to go out and see people. And that human connection is really important. And it is almost, it's a bit of a juxtaposition, isn't it, when we see the Twitch streams and we see one person alone in their pain cave, because we almost mentally are watching these teams and imagining that they're kind of in formation in their basements, but they're not. But this platform gives them that opportunity to be together and nobody feel alone in it.
And don't you, I mean, I really feel that spiritually they are together, and that's the magic here. That's the secret sauce that we don't really know the recipe to, but there's no doubt that they feel connected because you feel obligated. Okay, so imagine how bummed you'd be from either scenario here. You miss the start for your team and they only have 3 riders. You feel awful and the team feels bad. That's called obligation. That's called sense of purpose. And that's the thing that so many of us are missing. And Kate, I'll be honest. I mean, even for myself, you are now a friend. I genuinely think you're an awesome person. I would have never met you if it wasn't for Zwift.
That is really cool, isn't it? I was actually thinking, I feel like we need to have a reunion, and by that I mean we need to all meet each other in real life. We've got Anna as well, who does a lot of the commentary. Yes, that's our plan, isn't it? And of course, an early shout out to Nathan, our producer, and Martin, who is the genius behind WTRL, because without Nathan from Zwift Community Live and Martin, we wouldn't have this. So big shout out to them. Thank you guys. You do a tremendous job. We would, buy you a pub at the beer listen to me, I'm getting confused. A beer at the pub. Yes. There we go. If we could, we'll just have to do it virtual. Yep. But if, fellas, if you could not head off to the pub until this live feed is done, that would be really great. We've got another few kilometers left to go.
Martin and Nathan's pub, located up in we're obviously, those two are both masterminds that we really do appreciate. Well, yeah, feeling a little bit the heartstrings, but we've got a lot to look forward to. Actually, a lot of racing going on this weekend, Kate, so it's certainly, we're just wrapping up the regular season, actually. We've got plenty to go here in 2020. Picking up the Revo Scores team. Well, command, performance, tip my cap to these ladies all season long. They, like the mailman, they just deliver.
They have been smooth, as we've said. They've been so impressive how they've tried different tactics. They haven't always taken the safe option, but the results have been getting better and better each week for that. So big congratulations to these ladies who will take the win today as they cross the finish line. They will also take the win in the overall league, and they will head to the playoffs, hopefully with a whole lot of confidence as to what may happen this weekend. The playoffs are. We're looking at BRT here. Diane Bowman, she's another name that has really impressed me through this series, Dave, and I think one to watch in the next series, because I think the BRT ladies, they've got a lot more to give. Doris Marr and Ange McRae are 2 other riders that have just been getting better each week. So as long as we don't lay into putting too much over Christmas, I think that they will be very ready for the next season. We also saw the ATP Racing Swarm sneak across the line there too, just behind BRT. They're coming in pretty thick and fast now. Cryogen have just gone over the line. Massive congratulations to them. And the Avatar, Dave, when you see them stop dead like that, that pretty much means they're hunched over their handlebars, trying for dear life.
Reaching for a bucket.
Yes, exactly. So good on them for pushing themselves. to the
Kate,
limit
I
there.
feel like I'd be remiss. All these riders have done so much work. They've obviously earned their Christmas dinner. So in the United States and Canada, I think it's fair to say, typically it would be, the standard turkey with all the trimmings, or maybe ham, roast beef, but something like that. But how about in Australia? What's Christmas dinner look like there, traditional?
No, for the most part, we do cold ham and prawns. So prawns is the big Christmas tradition
Shrimp,
for us, and cold, of course.
shrimps.
Yes, shrimp. Although I thought shrimp were bigger, but maybe they're the same. You just call them shrimp, and we call them prawns.
I don't
Just
know.
another thing I'm going to add to my Dave's words list. That's like my
We have a lot. We have a lot to cover for season 2.
job every week. Yeah, exactly. So we eat prawns, and just like the good movie told us, we often throw them on the barbecue. So chuck another
Really?
shrimp
That's
on the
it.
barbie, mate.
I tell you what, when I come to Australia, that's the first thing we're doing here. Look at this, 1 second separating the Dirty Rascals riot as they are just right behind at that 26K check. We're actually going to have the finishing times in a moment here, but on the Rivet Haze, can they hold on? Ay, 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 Kate. This one is
tighter and
always
tighter,
a
but they do
humdinger.
always come at the end, don't they? But they always really push it all the way to the limit, because there's only 1 second difference at the
Oh,
26K mark from 3 seconds, but they started much slower. So I do think that the Dirty Rascals kind of wind it up and wind it up.
oh my gosh, look at the push here from Schaefer, trying to eke out every millisecond that they can. It is bananas here. Frenetic finale for our last team time trial of the regular season. They got 2K to go. Wow, battle going on out here.
Well, they need to just push all the way to the line. A lot of the time, this is Hayes we're looking at here. They've still got 5 riders left, although one has been dropped. Northway perhaps looks like he's a bit off the back, or perhaps that's actually another team catching some time. Oh, there we go. That's actually OMG. They killed Kenny. Look at these teams all coming in together. It's almost a bit of a carrot being dangled in front of them when they see it. It's really something to push for. And here is a good example of those different jerseys, Dave, that they're quite a colourful lot, aren't they? So that they can identify each other. So the Dirty Rascals have done a pretty good job of outfitting themselves for that purpose. And they're belting along at the moment. So 36 kilometres, they've got a couple of K left to go. They've still got 6 riders. They are definitely looking very strong. They've only been speeding up as they go. I will pick them for the win over on the Rivet Haze, Dave, because I think they've been speeding up, and we can expect them to go all the way to the line.
Really fast at this point, though. Amazing to see they've got anything in the tank, as they are slugging it out now in the final. Well, they're about to hit that 2K to go point as we're looking at Wang here of the OTR Hayes team. This again was the fastest team at that check. Boy, nothing will bring that last 10%, actually that last percent out of you more than being in a battle royale like this. 1 second difference at the final check. Great racing going on today.
I mean, that'll really put the impetus in you to get all the way to the line.
Sure does.
Normally, we say you don't want to be strung out. You want to make sure you make the most of it. But in these final kilometres, when they've got to just push so hard and leave absolutely nothing out there, they need to empty the tank. And on the Rivet Haze, I want to see them a bit more strung out. Dave, I want to see them really pushing the limit and almost dropping riders, because I think that is what they're going to have to do if they want to beat Dirty Rascals at the finish here. So they're not too far off now, about 1.5 km. We know it is the big rock formation that crosses the road. That's when they're at the finish. So they've got, here are the Dirty Rascals, and they are a bit more strung out, just like we were talking about. They are really starting to just leave it all out there. I like this. This is great. Very
Yeah,
entertaining.
this is what it's all about. Perfect way to synopsize the entire season here. After 10 weeks of racing, you can see how the teams have all lifted out on course. It certainly looks like it's OTR Hayes' day, though, as they are dialed here into the finale, throttle all the way open. As a matter of fact, Kate, they just took the accelerator, put it down on the floorboard, and have duct taped it there. That's it. We're going to run this thing until it blows a gasket or we run out of fuel, because they are coming in hot, trying to accelerate now. This is unbelievable effort. I will be shocked. Let's take a listen. Let's hear what's happening right now for OTR Hayes out of their team car.
All right, you're coming around the corner. After this, you guys about a K left.
Sounds like an abduction.
All right, 500K to go. Everybody up. Up, 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 up.
Let's go, boys. Dig, dig.
Come on, everybody stand up.
Go, 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 go.
Come on, guys. Go, go, go. Dig, 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 dig.
Good job, Brian.
That's Mike Robinson, the director for OTR
Right to the line, right to the line.
I like his style. Positive.
Good job, guys. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Dig, dig, dig,
Looking
dig,
good
dig,
here.
Finish, finish, finish.
I'll be surprised, Kate, if this wasn't enough, as they are done and dusted as OTR Hayes.
Nice.
Good job, guys. 4607 at the line.
All right,
Wow,
we'll
that
see
was
how that.
pretty good and enthusiastic leadership, wasn't it? Some real encouragement. And I think that there's so many different ways to lead and encourage a team, but that to me is a great style, really inspiring the lads to get out of their seats and ride it all the way to the line. A bit of a laugh on the heavy breathing. I feel like every Discord channel must have a whole lot of that. When they're out there and they're absolutely at limits, sometimes they don't have enough breath to really say anything or be too productive in that way.
I love when you hear like a random noise. Who knows what that is? Like a whacking sound, or makes you wonder. That's for sure. Speaking of Costa Rica, where the Zwift Community Live Summit is going to be held as soon as it's safe, I am looking forward to that. As here's the finish line for our Costa Rican friends. They've had a strong season.
They have. They've been really impressive, especially in the sprint stages, actually. We'll have to get them to join us for margaritas by the pool on
the
our
team should.
All right,
Absolutely.
now let's start taking the front, boys. Go for it, guys. 15 seconds. All out from here. All four of you.
Like coming from a
Drop the
space
hammer.
station command center here. Very organized.
That's it, guys.
Communication.
That's it.
Good job,
Keep pulling.
legends.
So we've had the insight in a couple of different cars here, which has been really cool. And it's all good and well for us to kind of pontificate about what kind of styles they may use when communicating. But it's pretty cool to see the riders both on their Twitch channels and then hear their team cars come through. I always laugh. I always imagine, Dave, that there might be a little bit militant in their communication, like go, 5, move, out of your seat. But actually, it was a little bit fluffier and nicer. It was a lot more kind of group hug, encouraging the guys to get to the finish line.
Yeah, the human element, right? These aren't racing robots that you can just yell at. They have feelings too. And I have to laugh. The old joke here in the United States, I don't know if in Australia you ever really got it, but the Eastern Bloc coaches that came over in the 70s and 80s in the U.S., there was a huge element of it. It was mostly Polish cycling coaches that came over. There's always that the communication gap that existed there. Actually, might as well mention, may he rest in peace, Eddie Borashevitz. Eddie B just passed away, who was the coach and director for the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. A ton of riders who are still around. The Davis Finneys and Ron Kiefels and Alexei Greywalls all worked underneath Eddie B. So, this team time trial discipline brings back a lot of memories, but really looking forward to the future, season 2, as we wrap up 10 weeks of racing here. It has been an absolute blast. But before we go anywhere, we always have our results to look at. And we have a double whammy. Well, actually, you know what? Let's take a look at the C's, Kate. They're still out on course. What a great opportunity to look at the Club Roulette team here. This is going to be Zern. As, yeah, they're getting down to it. About 2.5K to go.
So they've still got 4 riders. For a second there, I had a bit of a fright. I thought they were down to 3 riders, which would be a bit concerning. But they do still have 4. Overall, it's been pretty tight racing in the C category. And as we've said consistently across the league, it's been pretty impressive to watch them really grow and develop as teams throughout. Of course, a couple of these teams will step up to the B division next, which is a good incentive. The Cryogen Grand Colombier, all of the Cryogen teams are named after mountains. Whether that means they like climbing or not, who knows? From Marco there, he got in very early, encouraging them along. Let's do this. It's so good that across all of these categories we get so many supporters. He might actually be out on course with us. So that's pretty impressive. Pretty multitasking there.
I have been amazed by the riders' ability. Not all of them, but those that are able to do exactly that, text or type while they're racing, and even in some high-level competitions. So, yeah, 3 is terrifying.
I think there's a lot of multitasking that goes on while Zwifting, actually. It would be quite funny to see all of the live Twitch kind of the blooper reels of kids walking in, of things falling over, of we had one lady on one of our rides we were trying to climb up Alpe d'Huez who accidentally knocked her snack table over and couldn't reach her snacks anymore and was devastated. She was like, what do? Do I stop pedaling and pick up the snacks and then have to chase? Is it worth it? Hard decisions. Bit of an earth-shattering moment here for the club rule as Parrish leaves his teammates behind. They are in the final kilometre, so it won't have a huge impact overall. At least he's pushing all the way to the finish, but it would be nice if he's...
I guess this is sort of the no questions asked zone, I call it, at 1K to go.
Yeah, it's kind of, isn't it? It's like in bunch races where you've got that 2K rule where whatever happens in the final 2K, they kind of count it all together. Yeah. It's almost like an amnesty. Like 2K, go your hardest. Good luck to you. Yeah. We've just got to get across the finish line.
You do you, as they say. Right?
You do you. Yeah.
I'm going to stick with my plan. But all right, so we're getting down to it out here. These are more of our C's that we're looking at. Panda Candy, which, again, we were guaranteed there's no panda in the candy, which people were very concerned about.
No actual panda in the candy.
No. And then, Kate, you made the commitment, which I backed you up on. You said you refused to eat panda, which I thought was, I'm glad you made a stand.
Look,
on that. Yeah. Nobody wants
I am a carnivore, and I do like my meat, but
you're not eating koala bears, right? I mean, you don't eat koala.
Well, no, but we do eat. We eat kangaroo in Australia, and emu and crocodile.
Isn't there a McDonald's kangaroo burger option?
Not yet, but it's very sustainable farming, so it's probably not a bad idea overall.
Yeah, these kangaroos seem to they're sticking around. They seem to do just fine.
They are in good shape. They don't mind what goes on. They like
hardy animal. Yeah.
BZNB we're looking at here, Dave. What's happened? We've only got 2. That is no good at all, unless the 4 teammates ahead of them have already crossed the line, which I hope for them. Otherwise, there'll be a few guys scratching their heads, saying maybe we'll try again next time. Another solo rider here.
It looked like the vultures were carrying off a rider, but they weren't. Just a shadow.
That would be quite cool. I feel like every session we have some shout outs to the Zwift developers. Maybe Zwift developers, if a rider falls too far behind in a team time trial,
like if you're making less than if you're making less than half a watt per kilo for more than a minute, a vulture just comes down and swoops and grabs you and takes you away.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty good incentive.
Yeah, it'll keep you going, keep you motivated. I love the blimp. I've always been a big fan of blimps. I don't know if you've been lucky enough to visit the Long Beach office for Zwift, but that Ocean City down there kind of reminds me of where one of Zwift's offices are worldwide.
Oh, I haven't, but I will have to one day. I was going to say I haven't been in a blimp myself, Dave. I sometimes climbing, I feel like a blimp. I mean, that's got to be a similar thing, right?
Well, welcome to my world. I absolutely
Yes,
know that.
the sprinters amongst us.
I find that Yorkshire course the first time, if you ever wonder, am I a little overweight, just go right there. You'll get a good answer for yourself pretty quickly. You'll see all kinds of runners go for myself, I should say. It's always one of those things, those short, steep climbs where you see riders flying by and you wonder how they do it. And then you're like, well, they're 48.
Look, delightfully, the avatars all look fairly svelte. So it actually doesn't really matter. They make sure they make you look pretty
Swift throws us all a bone
game,
on that.
Yeah, so thank you very much to the developers who have done that for us. We appreciate that. Although Porres, he looks quite muscular there. He looks like a bit of a track sprinter. So I don't know how you do that with your avatar to make yourself look so muscly. But
I wouldn't mess around with that guy in a dark alley, Kate. I don't know if I would not question him.
No, well, I'm questioning what happened to their fourth teammate because they do need to finish with 4.
That's
and,
it. Well,
so I hope he's not in a dark alley somewhere.
Lying there, right? No, so we had the Bermuda Triangle effect, but I don't think that's happening right now. I think they're just going to try to get a time with 3 and call it a day. C'est la vie.
Well, and you know, I think it's the last week of the season, so even if it hasn't gone completely to plan for all of the teams,
so,
again, I just don't think we can give enough shout outs for how impressive it has been for them to keep turning up every week and making this an interesting race.
My first cycling coach, Kate, one of the sayings was, when in doubt, ride it out. And I agree with that. You know, if you're not sure, just finish the ride anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good mental health mantra. When in doubt, ride it out. Feeling crappy, your bike will make you happy.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, remember we gave you a lot of credit for the positive mental attitude, and that continues. And again, 2020 been a bit of a crap year, that's for sure. But we found our thing. We found our rhythm out here. Keep looking after each other out there. Keep the positivity going on the social medias. No one calls it social medias except for me. But
you're showing your age there, Dave.
Yeah, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of cool people. And we've met a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm a fan of cool people, even if I'm not one myself. We'll get the results boards
Never
up
sell yourself short.
When we can.
You are.
Thank you.
You brought a lot of credibility to us here at Zwift Community Live as a former world champion. All your experience has been awesome. So I know that Zwift Power always has quite a day on Tuesdays. As a matter of fact, they, more than anyone, are going to appreciate that there's no racing next week for the ZRL as we wrap things up here. But Kate, I'm going to throw it back to you, give you the honors of letting us know how it all played out today for the women in the West, Division A.
Well, I think it was a day that perfectly summarizes what a wonderful season it's been for this America West Division 1 league. The Revo scores, they took the win resoundingly, 1 minute and 38 seconds ahead of the ATP Racing Swarm. Both teams have just been absolutely phenomenal this season. BRT Doom Kittens, they came in third. Waddy Inc. WB, they were in fourth. Cryogen Mount Evans rolled in for fifth. Penn Velo, headed by Candice Lowe, they were in sixth. And the Revo Musketeers, they came in seventh. A big high five to all of those ladies out there racing, because you've put on a great show and certainly made it a great league. So over to the overall league standings. No surprises here, Dave. The Revo scores, they remain on top. ATP Racing Swarm They're 7 points back on 191, but both of those teams will go through to the playoffs as the top two teams. The BRT Doom Kittens on 169 points in third. Cryogen Mount Evans, they came in fourth. Waddy Inc. in fifth. The Revo Musketeers, they were in sixth place. Penvelo WB in seventh. AHGRL Bada Boom, they were in eighth. And the Istafund La Prima, they were in ninth.
You know your heart is really in it when you hear you say "bada boom," Kate. That's for sure. Hey, congratulations, Revo Stewart. That was your heart is in it, no doubt about it. So, hey, look at this now. The men's West A's. It's Dirty Rascals Riot taking the win today with the outstanding 45-57. Only 17 seconds back was On the Rivet Hayes. Oh my God, they killed Kenny in third. Finesse Wahoo Gold Rush fourth. It's the TAG Cycling Racing Team in fifth. Audi A in sixth. Penvelo A seventh. Evo Altibajos in eighth. Costa Rica ninth. And On the Rivet Novell. That's your top 10 teams for the men's A's. We've got to look then at how the B's played out. Back to you, Kate.
On the top of the table there, we've got the Dirty Rascals Believers, Justin Bieber fans there. They took the win. Only 10 seconds ahead of the KRTB Big Timbers, though, so pretty tight racing all around. Musette La Crocodile, they came in third. The Zwift Dusters in fourth. TFC Pickle Juice, they were in fifth, a minute 11 back. On the Rivet Zeal Breakers in sixth. Dirty Rascals Stampede took out seventh. Penvelo B1, they took out eighth. Audi B took out ninth. And On the Rivet Salarkin, they rounded out the top 10 today.
All right, some very exciting news coming in from WTRL. So remind me, don't let me go anywhere without mentioning that and what's happening on Thursday. But before we go there, let's take a look at our men's West Seas as Cryogen Grand Colombier taking the win. Dirty Rascals Ambush second. Panda Canda Racing Panda Free in 2020 in third place. Dirty Rascals Padres fourth. Dirty Rascals Grind in fifth. Dirty Rascals Affogato in sixth. Lightning Velo seventh. Swift Crushing Daddies eighth. Deadpools X-Force in ninth. And the Rebels for Swift headquarters finishing in 10th. That's our men's C's. Top 10 here on the day. Back to you for the, okay, this is going to be the season total after 10 weeks of racing. I'll tell you what, Kate, I'll just take this one. Finesse Wahoo Gold Rush with 187 points. They end up on the top of the table. Congratulations on an outstanding inaugural ZRL season. Dirty Rascals Riot in second. It's going to be On the Rivet Hayes in third. Oh my God, they killed Kenny, ending up in fourth. Penvelo A, they slot in at fifth. It's going to be sixth place for Audi A, Costa Rica for seventh. TAG Cycling Racing Team in eighth. Cryogen Pit a Sword in ninth. And then Alto Velo Racing Team rounds out our top 10 after 10 weeks of racing.
And let's take a look at this overall league standings for the B. Geez, there's a lot of Dirty Rascals getting around. And the Dirty Rascals Stampede, they took the win here, 177 points. So brilliant riding across these 10 weeks. The Dirty Rascals Believers, they were only 3 points back. Look at this pretty tight race for that third spot on the podium. The KRTB Big Timbers came in third. Back and forth, we had On the Rivet Zeal Breakers in fifth, the ATP Racing Krypton. In sixth, we had that Pickle Juice. And in seventh, Musette La Crocodile. In eighth, the Zwiffer Dusters. In ninth, the Penvelo B1. And in 10th, Dave, we had Waddy Inc. B1.
All right, so this is our C's that we're looking at now, and it was Cryogen Grand Colombier taking the season with 176 points. 10 back was the Dirty Rascals Ambush for silver, Z Sun Controllable in third, Panda Canda Racing ending up in fourth, Lightning Velo fifth. Dirty Rascals Grind in sixth. It's Dirty Rascals Affogato in seventh. Swift Crushing Daddies in eighth place. Deadpools X-Force in ninth. And then Dirty Rascals Padres. Those are your top 10 teams after 10 brilliant weeks of racing for our America's West Seas. So we have the results on the day and then our season-long results that we had a chance to look at there. So Kate, I know that you saw as well through our communications, and I've talked about World Bicycle Relief and how excited we are about Thursday and week 87 and how many teams and individuals have been stepping up. And it sounds like some unbelievable news as donations are being matched now because you guys, good deeds beget good people to do more good deeds. It's the ripple effect. So it sounds like if we hit $50,000, we can turn it into $100,000. So that's just more incentive for everybody to keep working to hit that goal of $50,000 and really make an impact. I love your smile, Kate. It was another great day. I'm so happy to say that we're not done. We have racing to look forward to this weekend, actually. It's a bonus weekend, Kate.
We do. The playoffs are this weekend. So the European leagues will race off together, as will the America leagues. We've had 2 of the women's teams today step up into those playoffs. 4 from the men's, I think, or 3 or 4. I'll have to check back on that overall points total. It could be up to 4, but they do have to hit that 170 points threshold. Dave, I've got to say a massive congratulations, and not only to the riders heading to the playoffs, because, that's really impressive and good luck to them, but just generally to all of the teams who have turned up over the last 10 weeks. We've had some really riveting racing. We've talked about how impressive the strategy development has been, how good it is for the sport overall. And I think just in time for Christmas, it's a really good time to just send all of the best wishes and a big thank you to the Zwift community out there.
Very well said, Kate. I could not agree more. So thanks again, everybody. Keep looking out for each other, and I'll look forward to the teams that will advance into the playoffs. Good luck to all of you that raced. Thanks for being out there. You brought a lot to the table for us.